Anusha.
Hi Deepti.
It's lovely to have you on Women Speak with Deepti platform, and I would be very happy to hear from you your story. Before that we start, I would like you to give a little introduction of yours for people out there.
Right. Hi, I'm Anusha Krishnan and I am currently a science writer. I work with a variety of platforms. I write for news agencies, I write for online news platforms. I also am a marketing content writer for a company, and apart from all of that, I do a lot of science teaching for kids. So there are many hats that I wear, and these are all of them.
That's lovely, and I know you have done your bioscience PhD, and I understand you had, as a young girl, you had a love for science and you wanted to have your life in a certain way. Now looking back, how do you see that it is different from what you dreamed of your life to be and what it has been currently?
Okay, so starting off, I think my love for science kind of bloomed when I was in my BSc. I did something called a BSc in Biomedical Sciences from Delhi University, and the teachers there were extraordinary, and I think that was what started off my love for science. And they pushed me through a journey which ultimately led me to the Indian Institute of Science, where I did an MS and then a PhD in molecular biology mixed in with ecology. So I did a lot of exploring when I was there. I did stuff in immunology, I did stuff in biochemistry, but ultimately ended up with molecular biology and ecology. And moving from there, at that time, my impression was that I would move into academia. I would finish my PhD, I would do a postdoctoral session somewhere outside of India, and then I would become, I would enter the academic stream and become a professor, blah, blah, blah. But life had a completely different idea for me. And at that point of time, I don't think I ever imagined that I would land up in what I am doing now, especially the part about teaching children science and also in terms of writing. Because I've always had a love for books, but I never imagined myself as a writer. But there were things that happened in life. I got married in the middle of my PhD. I had both my children in the middle of my PhD. I spent time, so a lot of my work was to do with climbing fig trees. So during both my pregnancies, I was very active. I was climbing fig trees.
Oh my God!
And but once both of my children were born, I was able to finish my PhD, but there were questions that came up. So for a postdoc, it would be ideal that I go abroad, and that with 2 children under the age of 2 was going to be very difficult. So that's when I started thinking about what else can I do. If my academic dream is not something that I can pursue at that point of time, what would I be able to do? And somehow everything naturally came down to writing. And that's how I kind of switched careers, because I did want to focus on my children. I wanted to focus on my family. I had a very supportive set of in-laws, a very supportive husband. It was just that their support did not extend to the level that they would be able to either move abroad with me or be able to manage these 2 children if I chose to go abroad. And I mean, I completely understand and understood their point of view at that point of time. So that's when I made a conscious decision to switch careers, and I came into writing. I spent some time as a science communicator with one of the with the National Institute. I'm so sorry. the National Center for Biological Sciences. I spent about a year there, and that gave me a feel for what science communication at large could be like, not just writing. And so for some time I moved into that, and overall that has been a very rewarding thing. The teaching science to children is something much more recent, and I realized that I really enjoy that.
That's lovely, and I think I do understand, 20, you would not believe the numbers, so 25% of women take pay cut, or they do not opt for promotions because of personal responsibilities, and where caregiving, wherein the data for men it's just 12%.
Right.
So there is a huge gap there. Women aspirations change as the responsibility takes place in life, wherein your decision has been a conscious decision. Do you think it would have been different if you would have given the support at that time? The decision would have been a little
different, is it? I am not sure, because to be honest, the kind of support that I would require for that decision then would have been very difficult. But I also see that the times are changing, because very recently I was teaching at a science camp for children, and a couple had come to teach them something along in that camp.
Okay.
They had a 1-year-old child, and seeing the sheer amount of support that it requires to manage a 1-year-old child, both husband and wife were, they were equally hands-on parents, but they also needed to have their parents come over, and it was literally like they had transported their home into Manipal for that period of about a month that they were there to teach the camp.
Right.
They brought most of their stuff over from where they lived. And they had set up a house in Manipal.
Okay.
And they had house help, they hired house help, plus they had their parents there. All of that, so it is possible to do that.
Right.
But then the cost of it is essentially that you cannot parent as a couple alone. It's literally, the situation is that you will need the village to raise the child.
Yeah, the saying goes there.
Exactly. So it is very possible, and given if I had that kind of support at that point of time, if I had a village, that would have been possible. But I didn't at that point of time. And it just goes to say that, if you're trying to do something as a couple or alone, it is difficult.
Coming as a woman, managing family, managing relationship, managing work, what do you think as women in science, what are the challenges that you have come across which did, in a way, changed your journey or impacted your career journey?
Okay. So one of the things that I found very, very difficult to manage as a woman in science, where I had to balance these two things, was networking. So a large part of career growth also depends on who you know and what kind of collaborations you make. So to me, as a scientist, I was able to do the lab work, I was able to do the field work, I was able to do the analysis, I was even able to do the writing for my papers. But what really got me stuck was that I was not able to attend conferences where I had to travel. It was very difficult for me to stay back for, let's say, coffee with colleagues, where again collaborations build up. So that kind of networking, that kind of building your group of people that was something that was very, very difficult for me to manage. Because once work stopped at, let's say, 5:30 or 6 o'clock, I had to completely switch gears and do something else, which was to focus on my family.
Right.
I did not have that extra bit of time to defocus from work, but also focus on relationship building with people from my field. Right. So that was something that was very difficult, and I think a lot of women go through this, that they're able to balance the work and the family, but they don't have that extra time to do this.
Yeah, but it's again very, the way time itself is distributed is very unfair, because approximately 4% of women get lesser time to do networking compared to men on a weekly basis, and 25% women are able to make on LinkedIn contact little compared to men lesser. So
right.
There are data around it which does say clearly that it is the way time has been distributed. Networking does affect, and networking affects further on your career growth. And most of the women prefer networking in the morning time. So yeah, there are a lot of women leaders. 80% of them prefers having networking time to be done in the morning,
right.
wherein 2% of women only prefer having networking after 6. But unfortunately, most of their networking event takes place in the evening, post 6, when women are already getting back to their second job. So yeah, that's very relatable challenge that you have shared. And as a women, we understand that it's just not work. There are invisible load which comes attached with the with work. So, what do you think from your point of view that there has been an experience that you would like to share where work and invisible load was walking parallelly, but people could hardly see that?
Okay, so I think that's how it usually works on a regular basis. Work and the invisible load are always parallel, and very few people notice that. For women, I would like to share an experience that my husband had, not me personally.
I would have to hear that.
When he had to manage what I do on a daily basis. So I think I mentioned that I'd gone to teach a camp at Manipal.
Yeah.
So I was there for about a week. And that was the time when I left both of my daughters, my dog, and my husband alone here in Bangalore. And mind you, both my daughters are fairly old, as in one is 12, the other one's 14.
Right.
So it's not as if they're very young children that require a lot of care. But despite that, I know that when I got back, my husband gave this sigh of relief and said, "I'm so glad you're back. My whole work week has been disrupted. I have not been able to manage." He did manage, but it had a very strong effect on him. He was exhausted. Visibly, he was exhausted. He was tired because for him, it was the same thing that I do every day, which is that he had to do his work during the mornings and then he had to switch to, like you said, the second job in the evenings, which is not something that he's been used to for quite some time. There was also another, occurrence that happened at that time, that my younger daughter fell ill and she had to be taken to the hospital at night. So he spent a fairly sleepless night because, she was fine. It was just that, she had a mild bout of vomiting that became a bit of an issue. So she was fine in the morning and she actually did go to school and all of that. But for him, that experience of having to take the child and that switch between having to move from work into an emergency mode where it was a medical emergency for him, that sapped him of energy and of direction for a whole day. So it was literally like, I was like a zombie. I was like on robotic mode for the next day, even though the child recovered, everything was fine. So that kind of speaks about how much of an emotional load that women carry on a day-to-day basis, how we manage to jump back from that, how we recover from all of that. Those are things that are those are things that need to be experienced to be understood.
That women keep going without the recovery, that exhaustion doesn't, there is no space for it. You keep doing the next day, the same routine. I think he got a taste of it, what it actually looks like, what all you do. As you mentioned, you have two lovely daughters. So maybe they aspire to be, women in science in future and contribute to the science in the world. What if they come to you and say that, Mom, we would like to, have a lovely family, but also be women in science? What would be your suggestion, coming from that perspective?
So coming from that perspective, I think I would definitely, I'd say sure, go ahead. But when you're going through your PhD, make sure that you have a supportive mentor. That's a very big part of anybody who's in science needs to face. You need a good mentor who is supportive of not only your work but also your work-life balance. Apart from that, I would also say that if you are looking to have a family, make sure that you have a very supportive family who understands what your work is. And that includes having a partner who will be an equal partner when it comes to both household work as well as childcare. And I think these two are the most important points in terms of managing both a family life as well as a career in academia, because both are challenging, and having a supportive family really helps. So I think that's my advice to them.
Coming from your experience, what do you think how science can be more accessible and inclusive for women?
So I think the question here needs to be tweaked a little bit. It is not that science is exclusive, does not exclude women. it is very inclusive. There are, especially at the PhD level, if you look at, in general, if you look at the number of women scientists, sometimes, most of the time, they're equal to the number of men scientists, and in many cases, especially in fields like biology, you actually do have more women PhDs than men. But as time goes by and as career progression moves and people are moving upwards in their careers, that is where you have the leaky pipeline, and that's where women fall off.
Right.
And the reason for that is mostly societal. It's essentially that women don't have a level playing field with men because there are more expectations on them from a home front.
Right.
Now, if that from a societal point of view can be changed, then men are made equal partners in caregiving, in on the home front, in childcare, all of those things.
Right.
Then I believe that this issue can be addressed. It is
Right.
not that science is not inclusive towards women. It very much is.
Yeah.
Okay, women have, especially urban women,
Yeah.
have access to all of these scientific institutes. They're able to get in. So that means that at some point of time, there are lots of women entering the academic workforce into the science workforce.
Right.
But at some point of time, or rather, it happens throughout, that as
Fallout.
yes, that fallout happens because of the unequal expectations that society has of women, especially as they grow older
Yeah.
and as they progress in their careers.
Right.
So this is a societal mindset which needs to change, in that women are not sole owners of the household. That has to change.
Absolutely.
And women and men need to start taking accountability for it.
Absolutely.
That's about it.
I think with that note, I think it has been lovely talking to you, and thank you for your story and whatever you addressed today. That really, really resonates, and it is the ground reality. A lot of women have that dream when they're young girls, and somewhere down the line, because of certain surrounding and situations, women tend to, step out of workforce, or even if they continue, then it's just not at same level as men. Maybe that's why at academy level, women are doing great. They're getting more top-notch scores, but somewhere when you look at the career ladders and all, the top cream comes, it's most of the men. So yeah, thank you so much, Anusha, for sharing.
Thank you for having me, Deepti.
Thank you. It was lovely talking to you, and I wish more women in science can grow in future. Thank you so much.
Lovely.